Hello there, fine art students. This is a continuation of the recording in preparation for class on Thursday. This is all about the super classicist and the emo artists. Today I want to go through the distinguishing characteristics of neoclassical and romantic art. There's a good chance that we're only going to be able to cover romantic art, and you'll have to be in charge of neoclassical because as of right now, I'm getting this message right here saying I cannot log into K-12 content. So I was going to go straight into the web content and go over neoclassical and do my presentation on romantic. So you may be in charge of doing neoclassical yourself. So we're going to look at how neoclassical artists were directly inspired by classical art, and how romantic artists were directly inspired by Baroque art. To summarize, neoclassicism was a dominant style in Europe and in the United States for about 50 years. And during this time, artists like Jacques-Louis Dahveed painted subjects that inspired patriotism and taught moral values. So we see this continuation of having the classicists, or those that look to the past, and even some of the naturalists wanting to teach these moral values through their artworks. Dahveed and other neoclassical artists based their figures and settings in their paintings on balance and harmony that they saw in Greek and Roman sculpture and architecture, and what you'll see in the neoclassical paintings that we see, you'll actually see a direct tie to sculptural application of the human figure as well as the setting in which the figures are put in. In the United States, Thomas Jefferson and other architects were inspired by the design of classical architecture. Thomas Jefferson more specifically to the Pantheon. Alright, lesson 1.11 covers neoclassical art during the Enlightenment. You're going to see that always there seems to be an uprising after a certain style goes through the art community. You'd have something that is free and fun in the Rococo, and then you have those that say, well, that's way too free and fun, art needs to have more of a purpose, and then we have Chardin. And then you have those that completely break away from the Rococo movement as well, and take their cues from the naturalists. With Chardin, and say, okay, we need to look back to ancient Greece, and because so many people look back on antiquity to get their inspiration. So the first artist that you see is Dahveed. You're going to see a direct relation between the way he actually sets up his backgrounds and his settings, as well as the way that he uses the human body as a sculptural form. So we're looking back at that return of the sculptural form once again in neoclassicism. The example that they give you in the course is the Oath of Horatio. The subject of this painting is actually it's an antiquity story, and he directly related it to what was going on in the French Revolution and also the time after. So he wanted to give this sense of patriotism, and he went back to these classical beliefs that women in art should be the only ones to show any type of emotion. Men need to be shown as strong and patriotic and ready to stand up and do what they need to do. So the characteristics that you see that are neoclassical here is just this throwback. You have this throwback to classical columns and areas. So you have this area that looks very much like it could have been straight from antiquity. And then, of course, the setup of the human form as more sculptural and not so naturalistic. There was this idealism involved. You'll see the influence of neoclassicism coming over to America. Of course, this is whenever America is trying to set itself up as an international power among all the other countries. So you will see this throwback to ancient Rome. Of course, ancient Rome was a huge political power. So it kind of makes sense that Jefferson and other American neoclassicists took this style and brought it over to the America as almost a symbol of we're going to come up to power and we are going to be somebody to be reckoned with. Jefferson's Monticello is the one that they actually go through and show you all the direct relation to the Pantheon. And they do give you a picture of the Pantheon, so if you were here after Unit 3 of last semester, you do get that, do get to see the Pantheon, so you can see the relation between the two. Alright, so that's pretty much all you need to know about neoclassicism. Looking back to classical Greek and Rome, sculptural details being a part of the artworks, as well as the way the human form is set up, showing scenes of patriotism, trying to get people involved with their countries and nationalism, and then the throwback to the domes and the porticos and the pediments. Make sure you go and take a look at the slide with Pantheon in here so that you can get a better sense of what all of those terms mean, so whenever you see them in the quiz questions, you won't be confused.